Hey everyone, I'm Kano from Liquipedia, and today I'll be talking about the Battle Royale / free-for-all match 2 rollout that we're doing. Basically, this will serve as sort of an in-depth guide on how to get started with the new system. As you may know, we've started on Apex earlier this year, and we finally sort of wrapped this up, where we have figured out all of the bugs that came along, fixed these, how to work out different formats for different games, all of this stuff. So now we're actually ready to basically implement match 2 on all of our wikis that are Battle Royale. So what I'll go over in this tutorial is basically why are we doing this, what's happening, and which wikis is it actually sort of interesting for. There's a lot of obviously some understanding that you might need to do, why we're here. And after that, it's basically more actually about the actual editing. How do we deal with scoring inputs? Basically, how do you now fill in the scores? How are all, like, I've listed a bunch of different formats here. Basically the classical way, placement and kills. But also formats that might use multipliers, how to deal with if you only know the points per game, if you only know the placement of a game. There's some differences here, which I'll go over. The other things are smaller things, like how to deal with the background status, basically indicating who's eliminated, who goes to a certain stage, etc. And then we have the bracket and match list. Basically, because we're building off the original bracket system, we're now basically having two things. One's a bracket, which is a bit simple. If it's just one table, you'll have one match. If it's two matches that lead into a finals, you'll use the bracket. Another thing we'll use is the match list. Basically, if you have a group stage with multiple matches, you're supposed to use a match list. So I'll basically go over these. We have a certain copy-paste page where you can easily generate these. But there's also a bit of a technical know-how to the bracket and match list, because if they're not set up properly, this won't work in the app if your app is supporting the new game. So I'll explain exactly how you need to set these up. And that's basically a mandatory requirement for the app to know this. There's a small update to the league stage / group stage standings, which is often used, which currently is only live on Apex, but we're rolling out soon on Commons. But it's related to the match list. Basically, you will have to tie the matches to the match from the match list to the group stage, so that the app knows, hey, this is the group stage standings, and which matches are actually associated with it. And then I will also briefly go over the conversion of match 1. Basically, how do you go take this old table and I want to turn it into match 2 version. I have a couple of things that I would like to share, how to sort of basically make your life easier here. So, what's happening? Well, visually, you'll be going from this table to this table, but obviously, there's a bit more to it. So, basically, this is a part of our standardization efforts. Obviously, making sure all of the wikis are sort of running on the same basis of code, so that if we do updates, every wiki sort of stays updated and we don't reach a lot of tech debt. But the biggest one here is this old table was mostly just visual. The scores weren't being stored into LPDB, which is the database, which obviously, apart from us not being able to produce cool stats automatically very easily, this was also basically stopping us from having Battle Royales in the app. So this was pretty much a requirement to go to match 2. So while we have this, we decided to take an extra step. We wanted to sort of visually elevate the BR tables, because for a lot of, especially new users, they take a lot of learning. They're pretty condensed, data packed. Some people don't even know that you have to press the I button. So there's a bit more of a learning curve to it. So we visually updated it. This allowed us to, as you see in this top one, it's a bit hard to see on the slide maybe, have navigation between different stages, or different matches, I should say. We have given more breathing room to a lot of the information, so it's a lot more easier to actually read the table. We served upfront, for example, the schedule. You can go into the specific games to find out placement points, kill points, etc. But also allowing you to expand the schedule or find out the point distribution without having to sort of find the format section and etc. We've also thought of ways of how to make the scrolling easier. So let's say a series is now like 13 games long, which is a lot. Scrolling wasn't intuitive, but we've now sort of updated how you scroll while having the left side of the table sort of sticky to it, so that you actually know which game you were on and which team was still there. But I can show more of that later. So yeah, that's sort of the whole package of what's happening. But this also means that you will have to update and start using match 2 to actually have this table. But yeah, if your wiki is to a point where this is done consistently, we can also look into adding things to the app. So which wikis are we doing this for? So obviously the classic Battle Royales are where we're looking at first, which are Apex, which is already pretty far into the match 2 progress. Then we have PUBG, PUBG Mobile, Free Fire, Narc, and Fortnite. Technically, Warzone is sort of technically very much a classic BR, but it's part of the COD wiki, which is already using regular brackets and match lists. So we still need to sort of make sure that both can exist on the same wiki, which should be soon. So it might not be very relevant in a week or so. But just as a disclaimer, that's still sort of being worked on. Then there's the auto battlers, such as Teamfight Tactics is probably the most prominent one, but we obviously had Underlords, Auto Chess. Hearthstone has the same as, they have a game mode called Battlegrounds, which sort of ties into this. Basically, for these, they only show the placement, but still it works with multiple opponents in a match. And then there's a bunch of wikis that have run free-for-all tournaments. I think CSGO had a couple. StarCraft, Age of Empires, Halo. It's a more common format that runs around, but it's not well supported. But yeah, this should allow that to be supported as well. But it obviously, as I claimed here, slight hold up for those. But all the other wikis should now be good to go, basically. So, with all this said, let's dive right into the editing experience. So basically, let's first go over like what you knew. This is the regular results table, where all of your match details are quite a long vertical scroll, because every details is like, everything is on a new row. You're filling in some redundant information, repeating a lot of information. And then you get to the scoring part, which is placement, dash, kills, comma, for each game. So this is all pretty much changing. A lot of it still sort of works the same, but we're going to a new format. So, starting off, this is, well, these are a lot more matches than just a grand final, but I can show off a lot here. So if we're going to edit, we can see this is the first match. So this is the first quarterfinal match, which means we've gone from a very long scroll to this, because all of the match details that you know, such as date, if it's finished, and the map, are all just on one line now, which means you can just easily fill this out, and it only takes 6 lines instead of a lot more. Above it, this remains largely unchanged. This is the point format. I'll show some other formats later, but this is the very standard. You get 1 point for your kill, 12 for first place, 9 for second, etc. And then this part looks a bit more in-depth, but basically still works the same. You can here put in your opponent, then whether it's a team opponent. This format also supports solo opponent or duo opponent or quadra opponent, which I'll show off a bit more as well later. And after that, you will have this part of sort of match 1, and then you sort of get back to placement and kills. Match 2, placement and kills. The reason why all of these are sort of wrapped is because it's to do with storage, and basically have the system know that this is a match, or specifically a game within the match. So basically this is how the whole table starts. So this is one series just for complexity gaming here. So as you can see, let's say complexity was 14 and 7 in the first game. We can go here, double check this, 14, 7. Now, what else is here? As you see, the point distribution that we showed earlier shows up here. The reason the kill points show per placement is also because we're accounting for different formats where kill points might differentiate per placement. You can pull out the schedule here. There's a lot of icons nowadays that will show, hey, this match is done, ongoing or live. And you can head into the different games here and see, hey, for example, here we have complexity again, total points. They had 1 placement point at 7 kill points. So sort of here you can find the full breakdown. You can find which map was played. You can still show the point distribution here as well. So that's basically how this looks. And that's very much your run-of-the-mill format, right? So let's go over some other stuff. For example, this looks a bit broken, don't mind it. Fortnite, I can show off here that the duo opponent, for example. So duo opponent here is Peterbot, which is a single player, and then Polo is the other player, and you can set P1 team and P2 team, or team 1 or team 2 should also work, and it will display the team icons of the players. Sometimes, because in Fortnite this was, for example, a requirement. And as you can see, this only shows the points. Basically what to do here is you will set show game details is false, and this will basically allow you to show just the point total. And then what you will do instead is type P is 70 inside here, instead of doing the, so basically instead of, I can tip it down here, this is the new version. The old version would have been basically this, the pipes were 1 and 25, for example. This also, the P is, allows you to manually adjust the points for a game. So let's say in game 1, this team that won with 20 kills, they broke the rules in some way. and therefore their points were nullified. What you can then do is do this. If this wasn't set to false, it would show still 1 with 20 kills, but their points are set to 0. So you sort of can still keep the data that this happened, but reflect in the points. So another fun thing to show you now, what we support, is the inclusion of starting points. So let's say, because in the previous version or previous thing, this team got awarded points for the next series. So let's say their currently complexity are on 62 points. Let's just for ease make this 100. If I press show preview, you will see that complexity has 162 points. So basically with this, you can set the starting points at the start with. You could also set this in the minus if they start with a disadvantage, for example. So that's how that works. Then we have, as you show in this format, and then we have the backgrounds. The backgrounds are set at instead of individually setting each background, you can now sort of group them. And you do this by typing bg is, and then 1 dash to 10 means 1 to 10 is equals up. This means basically everyone from 1 to 10 will get the status that they're going up. You can see it in this example. There's some icons added, which makes it a bit more easier for colorblind people like me, who can differentiate red and green. And then 11 to 12 goes down. You separate these by a comma, and that's basically how you go through these. So next up is some other point modules that we have. I can go to auto chess, for example, where I did this. We have the OGN. Basically, it only shows the placement. How to achieve this? Basically, leave out the kill point thing and just use the point format that's assigned to the wiki. And you would just fill out just the placement. Leave this here. But basically, because there's no kill points to be earned, the system sort of knows automatically, hey, there's no points to be earned here. We show just the placement. So this would show the first, second, and this shows the placement points here as well, as you'd expect. So another quick wiki to look at is Naraka, because they have an interesting format using point modifiers. Well, fun. It's quite painful to deal with, but basically we have P1 kill, which means the default value for your kill is still 1, but placement 1 kill, so P1 kill, is 1.2. So basically, if you are first, your kills are worth 1.2 points. So here's their regular placement point system, which means, let's take this team for example, for our player. In game 1 he was first, so he got 3 placement points and then 3.6 kill points, and he had 3 kills as we showed before, so 3 times 1.2 is 3.6. So this format is now also supported from the same template right off the bat. So this leaves me to just quickly go over the final thing. Let's say I have a group stage. So let me head back into the wiki. I'll show you an example tournament. We have this group stage. This has the overall standings. There's the group stage, but every lobby here has a different name. So instead of saying it automatically would be like match 1 or match 2, you can set M1 header is A versus B. So match 1, which is this one, and then you basically set the header title for this. The same can be done for the bracket as well. As you can see here, I could say R1 match 1 because it's round 1 match 1 in the bracket way. I can say bracket example. A very lame example, but this should work. You can now see, did I type it right? Oh, I forgot to type header. Basically here you can now see it's bracket example 1. Because I've set it for the first header on this round, all the other headers will follow. So there'll be bracket example 2, bracket example 3. So if you want to set them for each header, you need to specify this here. You can also write this just above the header here. It doesn't have to be at the top. You can write it above the header. Whatever is easiest for you. So that's basically the basics of how you would fill in your stuff. Let's get to the fun stuff. The bracket and match list generators. So basically, there's 2 ways to look at tournaments now. Either they are a group stage, or they are using somewhat of a bracket system. A lot of tournaments also basically are just one group being played, right? So we now have this. For this, I'd like you to think of the BR tables a bit more in a bracket way. So I'll pull up the designer to allow you to sort of better understand it. So this, it says grand final here in the dark mode. It's just one match, which is bracket 2. So think of this the same way for BR. If I want just the grand finals, I can type 2 here, or 2 SE is what I sometimes do because I'm used to the bracket system for other games. And in this generator page that will be present on every wiki, there's a couple of options I can take here. I can say how many opponents are in this match. There's 10. Is it a team game or a solo game? And some other wikis might have duos or trios even. I can select this here and I can say, hey, how many games are in this series? So let's say 6, which is standard for Apex. And then you hit run query, which gives you this. Basically, you can copy paste this into your page and you set up your tournament. Legends test page tutorial. I can create this page, put this in. I may have missed something on my copy. I missed 2 brackets. So now this is here. This shouldn't appear. Normally there's a header to sort of not have this bug, but you can see this. So what are some things to other pay attention to? Each bracket has its own ID. If I run the query again, it will give me a new ID. Basically, every bracket that you set up has this unique identifier, which is used in the database to sort of use this bracket where you want it to. So let's say I have a tournament that has 2 groups that lead into a finals. So you could see this as a semifinals. I can go back to my bracket designer here, +2, and it shows, hey, this is group 1, this is group 2. They feed into this group. You can then, basically, this one's just called 4 or 4SE. The reason these numbers are being used is basically because there is, normally this would be 1 opponent, 2 opponent, 3 opponent, 4 opponent, which in BR isn't, but we'll have to sort of rethink it that way because it's just using regular bracket stuff. But if I run the query here, as you can see, I will have my semifinals, round 1 match 2 and round 1 match 2, and the grand final here. So those are brackets. What I also like to do, let's say you have a stage in the tournament where you have 3 groups that will lead into a next stage or even a final. So you can't really tie them together like into one. So what you can do is use the Q button, Q, on each of these matches, which means you will now have 3 matches listed in sort of the same row, right, that qualify into the next stage. This can be used for some matches where there's not like direct qualification, but you just go to the next stage. So it will give you round 1, match 2, round match 3, etc. So that's the bracket. In a lot of cases, you'll likely use the bracket. Either it's because you just have 1 tournament, or basically 1 match in the tournament, 1 grand finals, because some tournaments are only covered so far, and you have elimination stages where you go into the next stage. Now we have the match list, which I'll pull up as well. The match list is in a lot of ways similar. You just want to say like, how many matches do I have? Which could be 10. Now you just put in 4 opponents and it's just 2 games. A bit of a silly format, but now you will get match list, match 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are my matches. Same thing, they have an ID that you will need. And I can put this on my page, and I'll have my matches. And you'll see match 1, match 2, match 3, with game 1 and game 2 each, everywhere. The match list is only really used if you have a group stage. So what I mean by that in Battle Royale terms, for those familiar with BR formats, let's take, for example, the group stage here for this upcoming tournament, where I can also quickly show the upcoming counter. Basically, you will have teams are divided into groups, or they're in a league play where over time they will earn points for a greater overall standing. So in this case, these teams are separated into groups, and each of these groups plays each other once. So there's 4 groups, 10 teams each. So A versus C. So this group plays this group plays this group, and they have an overall standings. So basically, the match list feeds into the overall standings. Which brings me to the updated league group stage that I talked about. So this table also received an update. Visually not so much change, it's just backend work, but this is the table we'll be wanting to use. As you can see here, I'm setting up the rounds and setting up the e-dates for that stuff, which is all fairly what you might be used to if you use the updated version. But there's this, matches is, which looks a bit complicated. But basically for the app, we want to make sure that the app knows that this is a group stage, and which matches are part of that group stage. So I'll just quickly use this to sort of keep this here. So matches 1 is TPMS. So what if you go back up to our match list that we put here, this is that ID. So this ID is this match, and then we have match 1, match 2, match 3, match 4, match 5, etc. that are all part of this. Showing this on a tournament that's already finished. Basically, we have our match ID again, which is tied to the group stage standings down here. And this is what's basically needed to basically set up the group stage correctly. So in this case, ABC is a bit overall in going into the group stage, and this will determine how the rankings proceed. In this tournament, great example here, we have a bracket stage, which is a double elim, which qualifies into, so that's why the Qs are there, qualifies into the grand final. For Apex Legends, we like to put the grand final on its own stage, because it's a separate day. It's sort of detached from the bracket in a lot of ways. So as you can see here, these teams go up, for example. These ones stay in the tournament, but they go, and these ones are eliminated in the losers bracket. So we go to the finals. We have this here. And now is an extra good time to sort of explain to you what match point is in the formats as well. I sort of forgot this initially. Match points is a format started in Apex, but a lot more BRs are picking up this, where after a certain point threshold, if you then win the game, the tournament ends. So we added this extra additional display for this. MPE game, which means from which game on was this team match point eligible, and then we have some extra statuses, such as match point. So 2 teams to 11 were on match point, and 1 is trophy, which means they won. If you want to set this match point thing, you basically set match point is, and then whatever point value the match point series was at. And this will automatically basically add this row or column. So that basically covers most of the new stuff in Battle Royale. So let me show you how I will convert old brackets into the new one. So for example, we had the championship from last year. Oh, yeah, just championship. I'm just going to look it up like this and then hopefully find an old one. Yes. So this one has a table. Let's scroll down to the finals here. This is an old one, which I will find on this page instead. Basically, we have our old table there, and obviously you can't really copy paste this into another format. And there's a couple of ways you can go about updating it to the new format. You could go to ChatGPT and say like, hey, I have this format. Can you reformat to my new format? Which is what I've usually done for this top part, which is a bit more annoying to do it. But another tool that I have to my disposal is this cool spreadsheet, which I'll share in a link in a full sort of written down guide. But this sheet basically allows me to copy paste the content of the table like this, and then Ctrl-Shift-V paste it in here. So we have the results. And this then does its own little conversion thing down here. And then you have your output here, which you can Ctrl-C. Then I can go to my page and just slam in the scores. It's not very optimized. You will have to sort of, because it takes the theme template and the image, you need to remove this. That's all. It's basically deleting the short name that appeared. So that's what I like to do if I'm converting tournaments. This sheet that I have spans for 24 games. I could probably increase it if needed. And again, I can share this link and you sort of can create your own local copy to deal with conversions. And then hopefully that should set you up to sort of get started with match 2. On sort of my ending note, if you have any bugs that you encounter with the tables, or if you have any other issues, or if you have any questions, head into the Liquipedia Discord. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Other contributors are happy to help you as well. And then I hope you enjoyed the new match 2. I've allowed, as I said, I can show some of the stuff. It allowed us to do a lot more cool things. Let's say we have qualifier 4 here. We now have these statistics that are pulled from the bracket, which show you stats per map, extra data, and this is possible thanks to match 2. And as you all might know, Apex is coming up to the app soon, and I'd love for all the other BR wikis to soon follow. So good luck with match 2.